see.
This place is different.
Hellblade 2 was a game Lucy and I were looking forward to, and going into it, we were immediately impressed. In the first 5 minutes, there are more characters, more action, the visuals, motion capture, and audio are all great, and we couldn't wait to see more. Just look at this scene. We could not stop talking about how good this game looks. But it kind of had to, right? Ninja Theory is no longer the smaller studio that put out the first game in 2017. They are a Microsoft first-party studio now, so that comes with much larger expectations. But I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's rewind a bit. If you haven't seen my previous video on the first game, now's a good time to go and watch it. But as for Hellblade 2, it was announced in late 2019 along with the Xbox Series X. This was our first look into the next generation of gaming, and it was a follow-up to the widely loved first game, so people got excited, and rightfully so. But then time just went on. Hellblade 2 follows the same formula as its predecessor. A lot of meandering, occasionally interrupted by cutscenes, puzzles, and some combat. I won't have a full narrative critique in this video, and I tend to stay away from it in my reviews, but since this is such a narrative-focused game, I feel like I would be doing you a disservice if I didn't at least talk about it a little before moving on to my other points. Hellblade 1 had a deeply personal narrative that Lucy and I both enjoyed. Hellblade 2 expands the scope of the world and narrative with more characters and locations, but it loses the emotional punch that made the first game so special. On paper, everything is better, but in reality, it's left soulless. Speaking of soulless, let's talk about the rune puzzles. Because of course they made a return from the first game, but I have good news. They aren't anywhere near as annoying as they were. They are a lot more forgiving in how things need to line up, and the goals are way more obvious, which can be seen as a bad puzzle. But to me, that was such an improvement on the same boring formula. If I have to go through an uninteresting puzzle, I would prefer to go through it quickly rather than get frustrated by it. The downside is that they introduced this new puzzle system that is an evolution of the reality-altering gates from the first game. You see a bubble and you focus on it and whoa, there's a new path. How crazy. And again, these just aren't good puzzles, and unlike the improved rune puzzles, these just take way too long to go through because they often have you running a decent distance to the next section, and you just move too slow for that to be enjoyable, especially since you hardly ever have any story progress going on during the puzzle sections. And sitting here going through footage, I don't see or recall any case of them even bringing in combat during a puzzle, which could have helped the pacing. Because the combat's pretty cool. Not because it's a good combat system. In fact, it's kind of worse than the first game. While Hellblade 1's combat was simplistic, it did have a good sense of feedback, which I feel is just completely lost here in Hellblade 2. For example, in the first game, I could nail parries, and it was a very satisfying thing to do. But here it feels like I should be getting the parry window, but then it just doesn't happen, and there's absolutely no feedback from it. Everything looks pretty and cinematic, and it's such a beautiful movie, but the gameplay is so clunky and lackluster. Hellblade 2 only really has two different awesome set-piece style moments in all of its 7-hour runtime. The first one, I won't spoil. They did build up the end of the game to be a cool third set-piece moment just to drop the ball at the end and be like, oh, it's not going to happen. But I really want to talk about this moment right here. I don't consider this a spoiler because it was used as the official gameplay reveal, which is the dumbest move they could have made. In the trailer, you can see Senua leading a small group of men to hunt down a giant that is living in a cave near the sea. You take cover waiting for the perfect chance to strike when one of your men throws a clay pitcher of oil onto the giant that is then ignited by the well-placed throw of a flaming spear. This sets off an action-packed sprint out of the cave as you throw spears trying to slow the advance of the giant, ultimately leading to what you can only imagine is an epic battle in the full release of the game. But no, it ends the same exact way it does in the trailer, and this was the moment I truly realized I did not care about Hellblade II as a game. That feels really rough to say, but I can't think of a better way to describe how I feel. Hellblade II is such a wonderful tech demo showcasing the power of the next generation Xbox, but it came out 4 years too late. Pretty graphics is enough to carry a game that is a launch title. But we are halfway through the console generation, so at this point we need something more substantial, and we just didn't get it. If you have Game Pass, I would recommend at least booting it up and playing for a little bit, because it is kind of mind-blowing that we are now at a point where games can look this good. Just don't go expecting any riveting gameplay. Our next video will be on Mafia 3 and should hopefully be out sometime soon, so get subscribed. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. I'll see you in the next one.